And this is the beat literature, and actually really beat refers to the literary form. Beatniks is more the whole culture, and that's a later term. The beats were already running around loose for some time before Herb Caen coined the term of beatnik off of Sputnik. But anyway, it's this is what the harvest, literary harvest, was of having people who write being steeped in jazz. And I once asked Allen Ginsberg from the audience, because I'm sure it was being taped, that he came up with a bunch of people at Columbia University, which is across the sidewalk from Harlem, and so they heard the jazz that was going on in the mid to late 40s, which is the bebop. And so they were heavily influenced by that, and then they did their literature and their poetry that was influenced by that. And I asked him, well, what about, instead of coming from the literary world and dipping your feet in jazz, what about the people who came from jazz and were dipping their feet in the literary world? And I said, in particular, Lord Buckley and Ken Nordine were jazz. And anyway, I consider that to be jazz poetry. I consider The Virgin Forest to be jazz poetry by the Fugs. There's a Mother's cut or two, and there's Lenny Bruce. It becomes less important about how seriously this is taken at Harvard and Oxford and all those places. Is this really poetry? Yeah, it strikes a nerve. It swings because it's jazz bass. So anyway, and you're not supposed to go through this in one sitting. You couldn't possibly. But, over the course of the next few weeks or months or something like that, you can learn basic hip of the beat situation and how that language and how that music affected them. But it's interesting. Alan's response to my question was, well, I don't know what Ken Nordine was, but it wasn't poetry. And he said, and Lord Buckley is just a comedian. And okay, but Alan suffered from academia envy. Towards the end, he really, the beats that were so rejected by academia, really, probably through the 70s even, but in the late 60s. It was, that was not literature. That's why I called it kiddie literature. They said it was, well, they didn't say it was shit, but that's what they meant. It wasn't shit. It was the shit is what it was. And it's important.